Hello, guys and girls. This is Batho Ben speaking, and I'm here to share with you some tips on how to stay motivated in high school. So, I am currently a high school senior, and as a high school senior, motivation is something I struggle with. Often when I'm given schoolwork, I find it difficult to find the motivation to work on it and do well in school, so I made what is essentially a list of tips on how to stay motivated. Some tips which anyone watching this may find useful, so let's get started. Well, before I do get started, let's go over my talking points. My first talking point is the importance of developing time management skills. My second is practice positive self-talk and visualization. Third one is prioritize mental health. Fourth one is explore new hobbies. And then my final tip on how to stay motivated is to read good books. So these are my tips on how to stay motivated, and the point of the video is just to share these tips and kind of provide advice on ways to stay motivated. So let's get started. The first one is the importance of developing time management skills. Time management has always been something I personally have struggled with, and so I basically kind of wrote a little bit about how to manage one's time and how to kind of get things done in a timely manner. So, first of all, procrastination is not your friend. I struggle with procrastination. Procrastination sucks because you're basically putting off your schoolwork until the final minute, which can just cause more stress because, if you actually got done in a timely manner, you won't have to worry about it afterwards. But because we convince ourselves that we can just get it done later, we end up stressing about it a lot more than we have to. So, try to avoid procrastination. And one way to do this is to create a schedule and stick to it. So maybe just take a piece of paper, pull up a Word document, or maybe you want to pull up a document in Excel and kind of just write out what you want tomorrow to look at. Like, let's say I want to look at 5 a.m. Okay, I'll write 5 a.m. and then wake up. And then I set my alarm for 5 a.m. So, basically just try and plan out when you want to do certain things. And then when it's time to do that thing, go do it. One part of this is identifying free and booked time. So, let's say I'm piling on a school bus to go to a wrestling meet. Well, that's the perfect time to do stats homework. So, let's say I'm loading up on the bus at 2:30, I'll put stats homework. And then I spend about 30 minutes doing my stats homework. So just try and recognize that you're not always going to have the time to do work. But when you do have the time, you want to make the most of that time and get as much work done as possible. Prioritize important tasks. So, if I have a stats homework due tomorrow, but I have a comp paper that is due next week, I obviously want to get the stats homework done first, so I don't turn that in late. Because if you turn things in late, that can quickly pile up, and that's just a huge mess. So, if something is due earlier than something else, or if a certain project is worth more of your grade, you want to prioritize the project that are more immediately impactful to your academic success, and you can kind of delay smaller projects until later. But yeah, just making sure you have a list of prioritization that's and that you're kind of taking care of your work piecemeal. Make sure you're not spending a crazy amount of time on work. So if I want to get stats homework done, that usually takes about 30 minutes. So I just take 30 minutes out of my day to get that quickly completed, so I don't have to worry about it later. There's this theory known as Parkinson's Law, where let's say if I give myself 2 hours to get homework done, I'm gonna not work as hard on it, and so it's gonna take 2 hours to get that homework done. So instead of wasting 2 hours just on this one assignment. I'll set a deadline for in 30 minutes I'm gonna be done with this thing, and then I'm gonna move on. So set deadlines and stick to them, so you don't spend too much time on things. And maybe I don't get done in the first 30 minutes, but I'll take a break and come back and complete it in 30 minutes again. So set your own deadlines so you complete things in a timely manner. Another important part of time management is going to bed and waking up at consistent times. That's just a mental thing you want to take care of. It kind of messes with your brain if you don't have a consistent sleep schedule. You don't want to be sleep deprived, so just make sure you're going to bed and waking up at reasonable times. Another important part, my second tip is practicing positive self-talk and visualization. Okay, so you're overwhelmed in a classroom. The responsible thing to do would be to walk out of the classroom and kind of just find a quiet place to maybe just relax, slow your heart rate down by breathing. So if I'm feeling overwhelmed, I will ask the teacher if I can leave, find a quiet place to just sit and think through what just happened, and practice deep breathing. One useful method for deep breathing is to just inhale through the nose, and exhale through the mouth. I'm not quite certain on the science behind that, but it calms the heart down, and that's just a good method for just calming down. One part of positive self-talk is eliminating negative thoughts. So, maybe I took a test, but I wasn't happy with the score I got. Well, it doesn't do me any good to beat myself up about it, because I know I can't do anything once I've been given the grade. I can only accept that I could have done better. I can look at what I did wrong and promise to do better in the future. But you kind of also have to forgive yourself for your mistakes. We all make mistakes sometimes, and it's really bad for motivation if you call yourself a loser. Because if you say negative things about yourself enough times, you start to believe it, and that crushes your self-esteem. And when you don't have any self-esteem, you're not going to have any motivation to keep working because you no longer believe in yourself. So you want to forgive yourself for your failures, but also promise yourself that you will succeed in the future. So imagine success, not failure. Because if you believe you are going to fail, you're not going to have any reason to invest effort into it. But if you believe you're going to succeed, then you're going to have the intrinsic motivation to fight through whatever you're struggling with to get a good grade at the end. And so another part of not letting negative thoughts crush you is to keep what you're going through in perspective. And a good way to do this is journaling. So I have a journal here where I like to write down my thoughts whenever I am worried. This helps me work through whatever is worrying me. It helps me see whatever is worrying me in a new light. So we tend to build things up in our head. We tend to make mountains out of molehills and make things seem a lot worse than they actually are. Well, if we look at it from an outsider's perspective and think about whatever is worrying us logically, we realize that they're not worth worrying about it at all, and we're just blowing them out of proportion. So I recommend picking up a journal and just writing down whatever worries you. My next tip is prioritizing mental health. So obviously mental health is a bit of an issue in today's society. I think I'm not sure what the exact statistics are, but I know a fair number of teenagers are suffering from depression. A lot of them are taking antidepressants daily, and so mental health is obviously quite a problem. A big part of maintaining mental health is getting enough sleep. I believe the children my age range, 15 to 17, require anywhere from 8 to 9 hours of sleep. So it's important to get your sleep in. Like, go to bed when you usually go to bed, and, just making sure you're getting enough sleep. Because you don't want to wake up the next morning tired because you were up last night partying or playing video games or something. Because then you're not going to have as much energy when you go to school. You're not going to be as focused. You're not going to be able to absorb as much information when the teacher gives directions. And that's just going to make, your day harder. You're not going to have as much energy when you're working on schoolwork, and your work is going to reflect that. You're going to be more nervous, more anxious, and you're going to stutter a lot of times, and you're like giving a public speech. So, make sure you're not depriving yourself of sleep, and just make sure you're getting nice, adequate sleep. Another part of mental health is eating healthy food. So, a part of brain health is making sure you're not filling up on junk food, because, you don't want to feel like crap. You want to maintain your health so your brain has the fuel to function properly whenever you're in school. If you're having a bad day, you don't want to make it worse with explosive diarrhea. Another thing I recommend is getting exercise. I personally am quite fond of calisthenics. Sometimes I just take 30 minutes out of my day to just maybe do some push-ups or pull-ups, and they raise my self-esteem by raising my physical fitness. And so that's just a good hobby to pick up if you're looking to improve your self-esteem and kind of maybe worried to burn off some energy and reduce your stress. And another thing I highly advise is maintaining your relationships with people. So, around lunchtime, I'll put my homework away just so I can stay present and talk with my friends. We humans are social creatures. Thus, it is important to maintain our relationships because it is mentally detrimental to isolate ourselves. Thus, it is important to maintain these relationships so when we're working, we don't need to worry about these relationships deteriorating. Because I know from personal experience that loneliness is a big killer of motivation. So you want to stay as socially connected as you reasonably can. So maintain those meaningful connections. The last thing is just to go get some sun. Sunlight's pretty important. You want to get that vitamin D. It's been proven to reduce the chances of depression. So, whenever you get the opportunity, just go outside. It's winter time, it's cold. The days are shorter and the nights are longer. And, we're obviously confined indoors. Thus, it's important to make the most of whatever chances you get to go outside and enjoy nature. At the end of the day, we're natural creatures, and thus we crave to just, experience nature and kind of admire its beauty. My next tip for staying motivated in school is exploring new hobbies. A part of exploring new hobbies is picking school classes based off subjects you enjoy, subjects you're passionate about. Obviously, if I pick a class, I'm going to be more motivated, and I'm going to be more invested in a class. I'm going to be more willing to, I guess, put a lot of effort into a class if I care about what I am learning. Like, for example, I am passionate about history. Thus, in history class, I'm going to do better because I'm going to be more motivated to kind of take responsibility for what I'm learning. I'm going to spend more effort on assignments. I'm going to do better, and I'm going to just work harder because that's something I enjoy learning about. And maybe you enjoy painting, you're gonna spend a lot more time on your paintings if it's something you enjoy. Whereas if you're in a math class, but you don't enjoy math, you're not gonna spend a lot of time on it, and you're not gonna do as well, because you're not going to be as motivated to do well in that class because you don't care about what you are learning. Thus, you should always pick classes that you know you will enjoy learning about, so you can stay motivated and actually do well. Another part of exploring new hobbies is participating in school activities. Sometimes it's better just to gather with like-minded individuals and participate in an activity you enjoy. Like drama team, for example. Maybe you enjoy acting. Maybe you enjoy musicals. Maybe you enjoy plays. Sometimes it's better just to get with a bunch of people who have the same interests as you and, participate in an activity that excites you. If you enjoy getting up on stage and acting, it's good to spend some of your time doing that. That'll fulfill you. That will excite you. That'll give you more energy and more motivation that you can then spend in school. Maybe you enjoy giving long-winded speeches. Go for speech team. You'll enjoy it. Another method by which you can stay motivated and maybe explore a new hobby is by volunteering. It's really mentally satisfying when you have made someone's day a little brighter. Maybe you're at the homeless shelter and you're serving food. Even if as an individual you didn't have as much impact, it's still nice to kind of have that human contact, and help other people out. That's really fulfilling, and that's good for your mental health. It uplifts you and the other person. Just makes the world a little brighter, and it's just satisfying. My last and final tip is to read books, specifically good books. Who knows? Maybe you like bad books, but read books. I typically read fiction books. I think fiction books are a great distraction from stress. Let's say school is stressing me out. Sometimes it's just nice to pick up a good old fiction book and kind of just forget all my worries. I feel that a lot of teenagers are always tempted to pick up their phones and check social media because they're always worried about what their friends are doing. Whereas I personally believe that it's far more productive to spend that time reading. I personally don't believe that social media is good for your mental health. I think it's very distracting. These apps are kind of manufactured to capture our attention and keep it. They're very addicting. And they're also full of people expressing negative opinions that I think it's just bad for your health. And so, spend that time reading and don't spend that time doing unhealthy things. Another great thing about books is that they can teach you valuable life lessons. So, obviously, the main purpose of a book, besides entertainment, is to express ideas. And these are ideas we maybe haven't considered before. Like, for example, I used to believe that hard work meant sacrifice. It meant sacrificing as much of your time and much of your effort as you could, which now I learn that's not really the case. Like, I don't think the most successful students spend like 4 hours on a single paper on one night. I think they are much better at managing their time and completing a lot more work in a shorter period of time. But I wouldn't have considered that if I hadn't read a book on the subject. So if you're maybe struggling on something in your own life, it can be helpful to pick up a book and learn the methods by which other people solve that problem. Books can also inspire creativity. Like, I used to enjoy reading about space. I used to always imagine we were on one giant spaceship whenever I went to school, and that always motivated me to get in the car and get on the way to school when maybe I didn't want to. Books are just good at making us view things in a new light, or maybe see them in a new way. Books also force us to focus. A lot of books require a lot of attention to absorb all the details. Like when I was reading the Lord of the Rings series, I used to kind of space out a bit, miss out on important details, and I'd be like halfway through the chapter, and they'd mention something that happened earlier, and I wouldn't know what they're talking about. I'd be like, wait, What happened to Boromir? So yeah, I'd have to reread the chapter to see how Boromir died, and then go like, oh, that's what they're talking about. And that really frustrated me, because I really hated it whenever I had to read the same few pages a bunch of times, so it kind of forces you to adapt a better attention span, stay more invested, be more present, be more focused, and books kind of are good at instilling that lesson. And the final great thing about books is it teaches someone the value of commitment. Some books are very long, and they require a lot of personal investment and a lot of time to complete. But if you stick with the book and read through the whole thing, you will eventually get to the payoff at the end. You get to see how the story ends, what happens to our hero, to our characters, and you're basically rewarded for staying committed to the book and just sticking with the story till the end rather than setting it down because you got bored. So it teaches the value of commitment, because whenever we set out to do something, we are seldom rewarded immediately. Often a lot of things take time. They take practice, they take a lot of investment, and we don't always see the reward for our hard work until way later down the line. And books can teach us that by sticking with the process, by not quitting and sticking it out to the end, we will eventually be rewarded for our commitment and our dedication to completing our journey. I suppose the same is true with school in general. School is hard, but we are rewarded with graduation. So in conclusion, obviously a lot of kids my age struggle with motivation in school, and there are many ways by which they can solve this issue, namely by developing time management skills, practicing positive self-talk and visualization, prioritizing mental health, exploring new hobbies that excite them, and finally reading good books. And so, yeah. So, it's not entirely hopeless. If you're struggling with motivation, a lot of us do struggle with motivation, which is why a lot of people write about it, including me. And so, if you're struggling with school, that's okay. There are many ways to combat this, and so it's not entirely hopeless. We are not condemned to the fate of always struggling with motivation. There are things we can do about it, and I hope that these tips helped you out, whoever you are. So, obviously motivation is important, and it's good to practice, practice healthy habits by which we can cultivate a love of learning that will benefit our school careers, and maybe teach us lessons that we could carry through years to come. So whoever you are, I hope this video gave you some tips to stay motivated, and so I suppose that is all I really have to say. I mean, there are many ways by which to stay motivated. These are just some of the things that helped me. And so, well, motivation is a hard thing to define, but, I sound like a dead record. I hope these tips helped you out. I hope this video was important to you. And, whoever you were, I hope you put one of these into practice, and that it helped some people. Even if it was just a little bit, it helped some people stay at least a little bit motivated. Maybe my little spiel about books and about how it taught commitment helped someone realize that they should kept them from dropping out. by teaching them they should stay in high school just so they can experience a reward for all the time they've invested. Oh well, this is Bathrobe Ben, your motivational speaker, signing off.